Pre-approvals are flooding in right now. It's a very robust market right now.
Hi, I'm Remington Pettygrove, and I'm sitting here with Scott Schneiderman at CrossCountry Mortgage. Scott, what's going on, man?
We are getting busy, my man. We've officially kicked off the spring market, especially here in Chicago. What we see a lot is, especially with a lot of first-time home buyers, most people who rent right now, their rents come due March, April, May, some June. So a lot of those people right now, they're kind of getting out there, getting their feet wet, where they're going to contact a realtor like yourself and a lender like myself so they can get an idea of what they're looking at and what they're pre-approved for.
If you had a crystal ball, what would be your prediction for the spring market? It sounds like, if I had to be presumptuous, that it would be really robust and competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, new client introductions, pre-approvals are flooding in right now. I can tell you that we're seeing it to where it's a very robust market right now. And I think one of the things that we've seen here in the third quarter and fourth quarter of last year, the buyer kind of had a leg up where they could negotiate on price. They could negotiate seller credits, kind of work with getting, 2-1 buy downs, these temporary buy down programs. I think a lot of that, where you saw it as more of a buyer's market, that might start to wane, because as you know, and you could probably tell me better, is we're still seeing a lack of inventory, where as you get more buyers, less inventory. It's strict economics 101, supply and demand. So you're gonna see where there's gonna be more competition. And as we see multiple offers, those concessions made by sellers or negotiating down on a price, those things are gonna start to go away.
Yeah, I think that it's tough not, what I find in my job is like, it's tough not sounding salesy when I'm educating my buyers, like, hey, listen, I truly believe right now is like maybe the last handful of weeks that you might have a little leg up. After that, I really think that it's going to become quite competitive. And it sounds like in sales, like, hey, you got to make a purchase, but like, that's truly what I honestly believe as well. Because like you said, supply is the X factor here, and it's still really low.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that the buyers are gonna have to get accustomed to, and that, again, that comes into educating the buyers, is when it does get more competitive out there, there's gonna be, again, less room for them to start saying, I wanna negotiate on the price, I wanna lowball on this property, where if they really want something, they're gonna have to be aggressive and understand that if there's competition, so going forward, they're just gonna have to be more competitive and aggressive with their offers.
So actually, I was talking to a client last night, and they were saying, we're hearing that there's still talks about recession, right? And that there's gonna be a real estate collapse. And going back to what we were just talking about is like, I told her, I was like, I'm almost 99% sure that it's impossible, at least here in Chicago, because supply is so low that it just doesn't make sense economically that it could even be possible.
That's exactly it. Like back in 2008, 2009, when we had the Great Recession and we saw the collapse of the real estate industry and the mortgage industry, at that time, there were about 5 homes for every 1 buyer out there. So it was flipped. There was way more supply than there was demand, which led home prices to just come crashing down. In this market, again, we're seeing it to where there's way more demand than there is supply. Therefore, you're not going to see home prices crash. And like you said, in this market in Chicago, it's a very stable market. We didn't see the dramatic increases in appreciation like you saw in Florida, in California, and some other parts of the country. But then again, where we didn't see that dramatic increase, we're not going to see those prices come dramatically decreasing as well. We've got a very stable market here, which is good.
So now that we're looking back after, let's call it 6 months from when interest rates rose very precipitously, what are the conversations and the overall sentiment from your buyers around interest rates? Yeah,
rates were well above 7 at one point, as recent as 6 weeks ago. We've seen interest rates now drop to where we're in the kind of that mid to low 6 range on an average 30-year fixed rate. So they've come down quite a bit. And like I've said in the past, as inflation comes down, we're gonna see interest rates follow suit. The one thing that buyers have to understand in this market is, listen, so the key thing for the buyer is, are you okay with the monthly payment where it is now? Going forward, if what we are predicting is going to come to fruition with interest rates, which we're probably going to see them at some point in the next 12 to 24 months, likely come down into somewhere in the mid to low fives, maybe lower, who knows, but kind of if the Fed reaches their target of inflation, we'll see rates come down to that level where anyone who buys now, there's no prepayment penalties on these loans anymore. So going forward, they can always refinance down the road and get a lower interest rate and a lower payment.
And I think if you look back at it even further and you look at it in the 80s, you can have that same argument to like high interest rates. It's just at 12%, 15% in the 80s, right? So it's like, and that wasn't sustainable either. So, and there was a balancing out at that time as well.
You know, we go back to when our parents bought their first homes.
Yeah.
My parents, when they bought their first home, it was like 18%. When I got into the industry, so in the early 2000s, I mean, at that time, rates were in the mid sevens. But at that time, when I would talk to a client and say rates are in the mid sevens, they were like mind blown how great rates were at that time. So
yeah.
Again, kind of putting it into perspective of where we've been and where we've gone.
And then I love what you said about like focusing on the monthly payment. I tell my buyers all the time, like, does the payment make sense for you? If it does, then let's keep shopping. If it doesn't, maybe you wait a year.
Correct. That's what we need to educate the buyers on, and they need to understand is it's the payment itself. It's not the number. The interest rate itself, yes, obviously the lower interest rate, the lower the monthly payment, but they can't get stuck psychologically on, hey, the rate has a 7 in front of it or a 6 in front of it, and therefore, in my mind, it's not a good time to buy or I can't afford it. That's just not the case.
I use the analogy a lot with them like a seesaw, right? You have price over on this side and you have interest rate over on this side. And in the middle, you have monthly payment.
Right.
And so if price goes down, interest rates go up, but like the monthly payment is more or less the same, because if the interest rate goes down and the price goes up, or vice versa, you could have a very similar monthly payment in either one of those scenarios. Is that true?
Very true.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense of where you're going.
So Scott, you just said that you feel your prediction would be that the spring market is going to be robust, competitive for buyers. What is the leading indicator you're looking at on your end that is, helping you come to that conclusion?
Good question. And for me, it's how many introductions am I getting to new clients or to past clients or referrals? And through that, how many pre-approvals am I doing? And I can just tell you in the last 3 weeks alone, it's bananas how many pre-approvals I've been doing a day along with my team. I would tell you in the last 3 weeks, we've done as many pre-approvals as we've done in the last 3 months, which just kind of leads me to believe, again, we're gonna see a beyond busy spring market, and it's going to be very robust.
And you obviously have a very good pulse of the market with the volume that you're doing.
Correct. Yeah. Me and my team, we do a very fair amount of volume. A very good amount of volume. From that, I can see just, again, the amount of new business coming in the door. We're just getting started, and it's already getting really busy.
Scott, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, man.
If you have any additional questions for myself on the real estate front or the pre-approval process, I know Scott would love to talk to you. Feel free to reach out to either one of us.